So you've got the exciting point. The client has said yes, they want to go forward with your system. It just needs to go into negotiation with procurement. Here's the worry. You're now starting to think, is this deal going to completely unravel because of that? I'm going to share with you a video today on 12 key points that you've got to put together when it comes to negotiation and the methods and how you can make sure that if you negotiate using this framework, you're going to get the deal you want at the terms you want. My name is James White. I'm a small business sales expert, a man that loves helping great business owners and sales professionals get great results. Let's have a look at what the key elements are around negotiation to make sure that that deal that you've worked so hard to get comes across the line in the way you want it to. Point number one is this: be prepared. One of the things I see an awful lot of cases is people that come into a negotiation discussion and they're not prepared for the conversation that's about to happen. They're not thinking around what the other person might be wanting to achieve. They're not actually going inside the mind of the buyer, whether it's at procurement or finance or legals, and wondering out what's actually going to happen. They haven't even done any scenario planning for it. A great way to do this is to get a whiteboard or to get a notepad and start writing down what could be the things that they might be thinking, that they might wanting to get in place in this negotiation. What could be the issues that are going to be brought up? What could be the thoughts that they're going to have that they might want to negotiate with you on? It might be the price, it might be length of term, it might be key aspects within the conditions of the contract. Have a little think about what might come down that way and be prepared so that when you do go into that conversation, that discussion, you've got information in front of you. Point number two, what are your red lines? So red lines are the key part of negotiation, which are your basic no-go areas. You're not prepared to go past that line because it's not right for you and your company. Be prepared, and we'll talk about this at the end, be prepared to walk away, but know what your red lines are. Know the points that you're just not unable to commit to making a change on for whatever reason. Maybe it's because it's company policy, or maybe it's because you feel undervalued, or maybe it's because it's not going to make you money. I don't know. But know what those red lines are before you start the conversation. Point number three is this: what value have you built with them? How much does what you do link into critical things that they want to achieve? How much value have you built within the mindset of the other person and the people that are in that room? And are those actual people in the room itself? Often, in many cases, it may well be that the decision to make the purchase has been agreed by someone else, but then procurement or IT or who actually don't have any awareness of who you are and what you're doing. How much work has been done by the internal team at the company you're selling to? How much communication has gone on between maybe the procurement team and the legal team on how important is your solution to that customer and that organization? The reality is the more value we've built and the more awareness of our solution and the impact it's going to have, the better it's going to be. I was in a conversation a couple of months back with an organisation where I'd had conversations with one person and it then came to having a discussion with the CEO. They wanted to negotiate me down on certain areas and I was able to go back and say, look, I've had this conversation already, and the person that would introduce me to the organisation stuck up and fought for me in that conversation. So I understand what value you've created. And if you haven't, try and do some of that, create some of that value and share some of that insight with the people that are going to be in the negotiation process. Maybe share some details on what the project's going to deliver or how it's going to achieve what you want it to. The key thing is create that initial value so that people don't come into it thinking that you're just another peripheral service that they can come and choose and do what they want with. So point number four is focus on your vision. When I'm focused on my vision, which is, for example, to help business owners and sales professionals sell more effectively, I'm focused on that's what I want to do. So is the deal that I'm doing helping me achieve my vision, or is it going against that? The reality is, when we're in a sales situation and a negotiation situation, we might want to focus on actually doing a deal. But if that doesn't help our ultimate goal or doesn't give us the support that we need to go and make our ultimate vision and mission happen, you might actually want to question if it's something you even want to do in the first place. Always get back to your vision of what you're trying to achieve and how this is helping you do that. And if the answer is it's not supporting that, then be prepared to say no, or to be able to step back at certain times and say that's not good for me. So point number five is this: understand the dynamics and wins of the other person. Who is it that you're engaging with? What are they going to be looking to achieve? Put yourself in their shoes. What would you want to be able to show? The chances are they're going to want to show that they've negotiated a better term, or that they've negotiated something, some form of prize that they can have. So how can you go into negotiation with maybe some additional services that you can offer in addition to what you're offering as part of the project that can maybe appease them? The key thing is, what are the dynamics and the wins of the people you're engaging with? What are they looking to achieve? What do they want from this conversation? What are their drivers? The reality is, if we feel in a negotiation that the other side feels they've got nothing from you and have had no wins, it's going to make them feel a little bit aggrieved. And even though they may even go ahead with you, it's going to make for the relationship to be a bit more strained, and you don't want that. So try and understand what the dynamics could be. What wins could you give that other person? What areas are you able to sacrifice on a little bit in order to give them something that they can take away? There's a great phrase I always use, which is sometimes it's better off to lose the battle but win the war. So what are the little mini battles that you can lose, that you can give to the other side, knowing that you can win the overall deal in the terms that you want? Think about them, put yourself in their shoes. It's going to be a big factor in helping understand what can make them think they've got something from it that can hopefully mean that the deal gets shaken on. Point number 6, what are the key issues that could actually be brought out in the negotiation? Let's say in the conversations that you've had with people before, you know there's been a concern around length of contract, or maybe there's a term around confidentiality or something else. But one of the key things I like to do, and again, this comes from one of the best books you can read on negotiation, is by a guy called Chris Voss. He was an FBI negotiator, and I encourage and recommend his books to so many different people. And he talks about something called an accusation audit, where you can literally bring out in front of people all the things that might be brought up. So you might go into negotiation and say, look, I know that today you're going to want to talk about this, and this. Or that you might have a concern around this area, and this area. Let's bring these out in the open so we deal with them. What that does as a negotiating tactic, it shows the other side that you thought about what's concerning them, but it also shows you're prepared to deal with the big problems and the big issues that are stopping the deal from happening, or that could stop negotiation from happening. And you can even use phrases such as, once we overcome these issues, do we have a plan to go forward? Or once we get these issues out of the way, how would you feel about moving forward? That's going to make the other side, especially if you've understood and got inside their shoes to what they will be the things that they're going to be concerned about, it's going to make them think, right, yeah, these are the concerns that we've got, get these done, when we can move forward. And it also enables you, if you've done your planning, to prepare responses and ways in which to handle the potential issues that might come up. The key thing is this, be in an open position where you can put out in front of people what might be the cause of the problem. Negotiations can go on forever a day because both sides don't want to give in to something. Sometimes it's better off to be upfront and say, hey, what's stopping us from making this happen? Let's deal with the issues and let's get on and do business together. Put that in place, and it's going to put you in a great position to save time and hopefully get the deal done in a sooner time than you think. So point number 7 is this, stay calm and use EI. A lot of the time negotiations fall because there are people that are professional at what they do in this area, especially in the procurement stage, that love to wind people up. They love to maybe put out things such as, we're only interested in this deal going ahead if we can get a 45% reduction on terms. And what happens then is in that situation, people then go, oh, and they get wild up about it, and they don't use their emotional intelligence. And one of the key elements around emotional intelligence is self-control. And they start then to rant and say, well, if you think this, we're not doing this. And before you know it, you get this rah, 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 which isn't going to work. I always think that if you're in a position where you can try and keep control of your emotions, then it is difficult, especially when we've worked hard and we've done a lot of work on an opportunity to then stay in control. But ultimately think about the net result and the end impact on this. What you don't want to do is be in a position where you then start to rile up and start to swear and shout and say something to someone that could mean that the whole thing falls apart because you've undone all the good work you've done. So just try and stay calm. Good methods to do that. Just breathe, give it 5-6 seconds, pause. Take some time when someone said something. I've even given something 10-15 seconds before someone has said to me, actually, what could this be? And I've then thought, okay, and they've asked me, well, what's happening here? And I've sort of said, well, I'm just giving it some thought at the moment. I'm just thinking about what you've said. Pausing and having those moments where you can literally show that you've just taken some time to consider things is really important. But also when you're thinking about your emotional intelligence is to be aware of what's going on. Have that ability to be able to look and see what other people are doing. Are they tuning out of certain conversations? How are they reacting to certain things? Emotional intelligence is a critical factor in any business relationship. So be in a position where you stay calm and start to look at what's happening around you. Become in tune to your own actions, but also the actions around other people. And it's going to help you deliver a far better experience in the negotiation process and get what you want from it. So point number 8, to build on what we talked around ESI, and that's to mirror and use what I would call tactical empathy. Mirroring is being in a position where you can try and reflect back to the other person what they've said. And it's something you should have hopefully done when you've had your sales conversations with them. An example of that might be when someone maybe in a negotiation says, we need to it's a minimum order quantity. You mentioned the minimum order quantity. Talk to me about what you're looking at here. Or minimum order quantity, what makes that critical for you in this negotiation process? By mirroring back to them the words they say, it's going to make them feel like they've been listened to. And it's also going to be in a position where you can then try and see it from their perspective. This tactical empathy is around what's making that so key for you, the minimum order quantity. It's going to show them that you understand their position. You're trying to get to a resolution without even trying to then just be on a different path and not keen to get to the point where you both can make a commitment happen. The reality is when you mirror and you show people that you've listened to what they're saying and intently listen, watch out for the signals that they're given and try and mirror those actions. So if you're getting someone showing a concern, look, say, I'm sensing concern, tell me what's happening here. You'll be able to mirror their actions and show their empathy. It's going to hopefully make them think that you're listening to them, that you understand what they're saying, and that you're keen to get a resolution in place. Point number 9 are to use how and what questions in the negotiation. How am I supposed to put that in place? What are we supposed to do in a situation when this happens? How can we move forward on a deal when the numbers are so much lower? What you're doing is you're trying to give the person the other side of the conversation and negotiation the ability to try and answer some of the problems and issues that may face from this. But always remember, you've come together because a deal has been done. Hopefully you're in a position where the contract is ready to be signed and the commitment to work together is there. So actually, if someone's then trying to negotiate you down by adding more services in or adding a lower price, how am I supposed to achieve the service of quality you want, but at these lower levels? Well, what would be the impact if we lowered our service quality alongside this? What you're trying to do is get the other person to maybe own the issue that they maybe are suggesting as part of the negotiation. And Chris Voss talks a lot about if you ask these questions on a continual basis, by how am I supposed to achieve that? What am I supposed to do? How can I make that happen? It's going to make the other person try and own the problem and hopefully come up with solutions for it. Questions are the route to negotiation success, and there should be some of the key parts you've learned over watching my videos and becoming good at selling is to know that great questions asked in the right way can help get both sides on the same wavelength and making sure that they both want to do business together. The key thing is don't just try and make it someone else's problem. Don't just try and use closed questions to then put them into a position where they feel like they're backed into a corner, and make those people in the conversation feel like if this doesn't happen, it's going to cause issues and problems elsewhere, and that won't be what they want to do. Ask how and what questions. They're the method to be able to hopefully get inside the mind of the other negotiator and get them to where you want them to be. Point number 10, use the word fair. Studies have shown that when we start to use the word fair, it creates this sort of sense in someone's mind that maybe they're not actually doing what they should be doing, that they maybe are being a bit selfish and narcissistic in their approach, and it's not going to work for both sides. And the word fair is one that other people have found really valuable and helpful to getting negotiations in place. So just ask the question, how is that fair? Or does that sound fair? Or is what I've suggested there fair for both parties? It's a simple phrase, it's a simple word, but it has a magical effect. So point number 11 is this: be prepared to walk away. I know it might sound madness to even think this, but if you're in a position where if we've used some of the methods that we've talked about, and we can't actually get the other side to see things from our perspective, or they've maybe crossed some red lines, or there may be some issues there that we can't overcome, or we can't get them to see that something's fair, then we might have to be in a position where we walk away. The reality is, I'm a big believer in business that if you literally are in a situation where the deal just doesn't make sense for you, it doesn't stack up, and you're having to give concession after concession after concession, it just makes you look desperate and makes you weak. And in my view, when I've seen this happen, when you're in that situation, when it's weak, then someone else will then take advantage of you for the whole cause of the contract. And that might then mean that you're tying yourself into a few years of working with someone and making yourself unhappy and creating other problems. We never want to be in this position where we walk away, because ultimately we've worked so hard to make the deal happen. But sometimes it's better to do no business than to do business at any cost. Be prepared to walk away. Be prepared to have the conversation and say, look, if we're not able to move on that particular point, let's give ourselves some time to think about this and we may need to consider whether this is the right option. Give them the concern as well that you're prepared to do that, and don't use it as a threat and a gun to their head, but especially when you've tried to use the other aspects and explored other opportunities, make them realise that actually walking away is an option if you can't get negotiation in place that works for both sides. Do that and you're going to stand up for yourself, you're going to make your own value feel important, and it's going to tell the buyer that you're keen to work with them but not at all costs. So point number 12, what next? You've maybe given a few things, they've given a few things, and you've got an agreement to work together. So the key thing I always say then is what next? Make sure you get some commitment on the next situation that's going to happen. What you then don't want is to be in a position where both sides go away and then find that this doesn't then bring the deal together because they've got to get something else agreed by someone else. I remember once being in a negotiation position on a legal situation, and we had a conversation around what would happen. And even before we got to that final stages, they said, well, this has to go through someone else. And I remember the person that we were talking with saying, let's get agreement from that company or that person before we leave this room, because we don't want to be in a position where we're in the same position in 6 weeks' time. So get clarity on what happens next. Get those actions detailed. If there is something that's got to happen from there, put in place a timescale to when those elements are going to be done by, so that you can know that the contract can be signed and agreed and both parties can move forward and work together. The key thing is don't leave there to be any ambiguity. Get complete clarity on what's going to happen next. So hopefully this video has given you some insights into negotiation. Of course it's a complex area. I know it is. I know it's not something that's simple, and I wish I could be there with you in that negotiation to understand the dynamics of the sale. But if you've understood the elements that I've talked about and have worked so hard to do this deal and have created the value in the mind of the buyer and you're solving a problem for them, then hopefully you're going to come together in a way that works for everyone. Yes, you might have to give the odd thing here and there, but try and focus on being able to give an additional service or something else rather than discounting away. I always think if you give a discount away now, it's going to open up a door for more things in the time to come. Stand by yourself, stand by your values and what your red lines are, but be able to negotiate using effective mirroring and asking great questions and making sure the other side sees that you are prepared to walk away. If you do these things, you can hopefully get the right result, shake hands on the deal, go forward and do great business. Hope this video has been helpful. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, share it with other people. Let's get them making sure they are negotiated in the right, effective way, and hopefully we can make sure that you get the sales success that you want over the coming weeks and months. Thanks for watching the video. Take care. See you soon.